Hi, welcome to Promo Insiders, an ASI media podcast that covers the issues that matter most to the promotional products industry. I'm Chris Ruvo for ASI Media, and today will probably be among the more difficult discussions we'll ever have on this podcast. It centers on the deadliest mass shooting in the history of the state of Maine, an unspeakable tragedy that on October 25th saw Robert Card kill 18 people, some at a bowling alley where a youth league event was occurring, and others at a local bar and grill. Card later took his own life. The horror played out in Lewiston. It may be Maine's second biggest city, but with a population of roughly 37,000 in a rural state, it's a tight-knit community with the feel of a small town. My guest today knows Lewiston intimately. Joanne Lantz is the CEO-president of Geiger, one of the largest distributors in the promotional products industry, a firm that does business throughout North America and in Europe too. Geiger's headquarters are in Lewiston, where it's one of the area's biggest private industry employers. To put it plainly, Geiger and its people are Lewiston. The tragic mass shooting could hardly be more personal and deeply felt for Lance and her colleagues. Graciously, she's agreed to speak with me today about her experience and that of her community in the wake of the terrible tragedy, and also about leading. How does one step up and effectively lead amid such a crisis? Joanne, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Chris. I am delighted to be here, though the circumstances are just horrible and tragic.
So, with that in mind, where do things stand today? We're a few weeks on. What is the feeling in Lewiston right now?
It's been about 2 weeks. I don't know the airing of this particular podcast, but as you and I speak, it's been about 2 weeks since we heard about the murder. And I use the term murder. It's not a mass shooting. It's a mass murder. And it's the murder of our family, our friends, and our loved ones. And our city is in a state of transition, or should I say, our residents and our people are in a state of transition. There's enormous pride in I've heard the term grittiness. We're a gritty city, not in terms of dirt, but in terms of resilience. And there's enormous pride in the resilience of our citizens and our families here in Lewiston. There's a little anger in regards to no one wants to hear that name of that person again who committed such an atrocity. We don't want to see his picture. We are actually scrubbing it from our social media because we don't want to have this cult-like following in terms of what he has done. And we want to focus on the victims, both the physical victims as well as the emotional victims of our community.
It's really interesting. It is almost a perverse consequence sometimes of these horrible events that somebody does become glorified or get so much spotlight for bringing. So that's an interesting point you make about just not wanting to hear that name. And so it's still raw. It sounds like it's still raw there, and it's a community still very much. It sounds like maybe coming off the shock a little bit, but still very much raw in dealing with this right now. So I know that you want to talk about the community a lot, and that's important, but hey, you're a part of that community, and this hit you on a personal level too. So I'm curious, just what was your personal experience like? Like where were you when news of this broke, and kind of what's it been like for you over the last couple weeks?
I'll speak briefly about it, but I'm going to shift my comments more towards my family, my friends, my colleagues here, and people that I've known in this community since birth. I was born in Lewiston, raised in Lewiston, grew up in Lewiston, I've always had a footprint in Maine, but I've always worked with Geiger in Lewiston since college. So my roots and my foundation are here. I had just returned home from the Power Summit when I found out. I think I was home for about an hour when I received the first phone call or text in regards to this. And so I was safely in my home at the time that I found out about the shooting. I heard about what happened at Just in Time or the bowling alley at first, and then was like so many others following this story and trying to track down our work colleagues, the Geigers, and the individuals that I work with in Lewiston, as well as trying to track down my family. What was it like? We stayed up all night, just like so many people, and through a flurry of texts and phone calls, just trying to find out who was there, who was safe, who wasn't. Personally had family members who had family members who we couldn't track, couldn't find out where they were, and ultimately did not survive. Also personally had family members that were there, and others as well who were had just left. Schmingi's and Just in Time are two locations that if you work at Geiger or if you live in Lewiston, you'll have been there. Schmingi's is right next to our building. It's
Really?
we are literally right next to Schmingi's.
Wow.
So it was our favorite lovely place to go after work for a group huddle or just to have a burger and a beer. They had cornhole tournaments there all the time. So it was a place that we all have been many, many times, especially because it's so convenient. Just in Time, I've been going there since I was a child. So I think of your local community, you go bowling. Bowling is like a family activity.
Absolutely.
And so every one of us we've all been there, especially in Lewiston. There's not a lot of activities that you can go to as a family and with kids and everything that was multi-generational. So it really hit close to home for all of us.
My word, you mentioned some family and friends in there. Just what was that like over the next few days, just getting in touch with people, accounting for people, maybe even providing a shoulder to some who lost someone or had somebody wounded. Was that part of what you experienced?
Well, there are things that I think as a company we did well, and there are things, this is for in terms of our colleagues, and there are things that we certainly will do better. One of my colleagues said there's really no playbook uh, for such a mass shooting, for such a mass murder. We all, we have gone through and we were updating our active shooter training. But that is an impersonal training versus when you're actually faced with that crisis. And so what we did well is within, I don't know, an hour and a half, 2 hours, we were able to text every Maine associate, both reaching out to them because people don't have your computers always when you're home from work. And we had set up that type of communication tree in advance, not necessarily for this, more for snowstorms and blizzards and those types of things, wherever it could take place anywhere in the United States. But we used that medium to reach out to people on a mass basis, on a group basis, I should say, as well as had each of us reached out to individuals via text or phone calls. We did have one person in the building at that time who he was in a lockdown until the police could escort him home later that evening.
Okay.
And we did have a couple people we weren't able to reach right away. Fortunately, we were able to reach them. So it was the fear of, where are you? Are you home? Where are your kids? Get home now. And then the fear of we can't reach an individual. So we have colleagues here, and I have family, and I have colleagues who have family who could not reach their family. And there was a school set up locally for individuals to go there, including those who were at either location, to wait for word on their loved ones. And I wasn't there, but I've heard firsthand accounts of what it was like to be in that school, waiting all night and waiting, and then receiving word about one family member and waiting another 24 hours, 48 hours before it was confirmed of another family member. And it's horrific.
Yeah.
It's horrific.
Yeah, it's hard to follow something like that up with words. It's something that just, I think if you're even slightly empathetic as a human being, you have to feel that in your soul to put yourself in the shoes of somebody there and what that must feel like, and to have that, even if it wasn't your family personally, just to have had it happen in your community, and to have that resonate through. That thread of emotion has to be so intense for everybody. But I feel it's good we put these things on the record in a way, because it reclaims some of the humanity from such an awful event, and as you say, maybe puts a focus on the people as opposed to the perpetrator.
Chris, put yourself in these shoes, that everyone you work with, every single person you work with, has a relationship or knew someone with someone who is injured or murdered. And then put yourself in this sort of situation where every one of your family members, every one of them in this community and outside of this community, every single one, I haven't met one person yet who has not had a relationship or knew or was there or was a first responder or was in that emergency room. And then think of how that would affect you. And we see this on television, all of us. We see it on television all the time. Words can't describe the emotion and the fear and the sounds. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I was just going to say, I think you make a good point there, is that sometimes these things happen and they make headlines, and it's a focus for maybe a news cycle of a few days because it is such an event, and then the focus shifts somewhere else. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to reach out to you, is because I think that it's important to not just let that fade, for there to be follow-up beyond the event itself and the facts of the event itself, because these things they will reverberate throughout that community for decades, for it will reverberate throughout families for their lifetimes, and it's important to acknowledge that beyond the event itself. I feel one of the things I want to ask you, slightly different tact here, because when things like this happen, when tragedies of any kind happen, when crises happen, people do need to step up, and you are in a leadership position, and with the company, obviously, in our industry, but also in your community. So how did you I'm interested from a mental perspective, how did you get in that mind frame to, I have to act? How did that happen?
It happened naturally. Within the first few minutes, I had to reach out to my direct reports, the Geiger family, and our board of directors, to let them know this was happening, or to even check on where they were. And from there, within 15 minutes, we had an executive team huddle where we made some decisions on what was the process of reaching out to people and how to report to each other. We have one colleague here who is our facilities manager engineer, and he's a hero. Actually, he's a superhero in the sense that he volunteers as the Lewiston Police Department chaplain. And so I spoke with him on the way to Smingy's, where he was there with the police department all evening, and was with the first responders, the victims' families, and other individuals involved. And so he was actually giving us information, not necessarily confidential details, but giving us information on the depth of the magnitude of what has happened. And so we had a wonderful communication process with each other and with the city of Lewiston as a result of it. What we tried to do is to reach out via phone call, text, and email. Obviously, we shut the Lewiston facility down for the next 2 days. As soon as there's a lockdown, that's without saying that we shut that down. We committed to any employee who wasn't working because of the shutdown that they'd be paid, because people still have their families to support.
Sure.
And it's people over profits
Mhm.
that we have to be careful about, and that's part of our culture. But then we sent out, or I sent out, both we and I sent out emails to our larger community as well as
Okay.
texts, meaning all of our sales partners, our associates all over the globe, in terms of this is what's happening, this is what we know, this is the situation, we're closed in this office. If you need help, we immediately put out information through our benefits provider for emotional support.
Okay.
We had daily links, daily. We reached out daily through to our individuals on how they could receive emotional support or even more in regards to this. And then the following week had our grief counselor here as well. People who go through this process need a form to share their experience.
Okay.
And it's really important for us to provide that opportunity and time for simply people to say, where were you? Who do you know? Share in our grief, share in our tears, and then share in our emotional resilience afterwards, and share in our anger.
Yeah.
Because it's all part of that process.
It's all part of I guess processing what's happened and being able to deal with it and move forward. Wow,
So
that was so much to deal with at once.
If the one thing I would say is that if you have ASI, let's use ASI, you have a large community there. You need to have, and we need to have ways to reach every individual beyond email and beyond social. And so our common denominator are our cell phones. And so having that capability of doing text trees and sending out immediate messages in real time is such a wonderful advancement of technology that that then you can follow up with a personal phone call. And this was a combination of both, multiple times.
Okay. You half answered to a degree, I think, my next question, which was just how do you, like, what should leaders do when I know there's not maybe a pat formula, but just what is it? Is there maybe some fundamental things you have to do when you're encountered with a crisis? It doesn't even have to be this particular crisis, just crisis in general. What do you have to do fundamentally as a leader?
There are a few things, and I'm probably not going to articulate this very well, Chris. The first is we can't make it about ourselves. I mean, even this makes me a little uncomfortable talking a little bit too much about me. But as a leader, you have to separate your personal emotions, your personal feelings, and reach out and be empathetic and understand and have a strong communication to individuals. You have to set your emotions aside. As a leader, in times of crisis, we need to lead from the front and be decisive. In times when things are going well, we lead from the back and we follow the lead of others. But when it's crisis, people want decisiveness. They need decisiveness. They need to know, okay, do I go to work tomorrow? No, I don't. Oh my gosh, I don't have my laptop. What do I do? It's all okay. We will support you. We'll all pitch in and help you. They need to have their questions answered to whatever extent you can. And so that they, at least of all of the unknowns, that they know as a leader, okay, I can at least rely upon Geiger, I can rely upon ASI, I can rely upon my employer to at least let me know here's the status as best as we can in a very rapidly evolving situation.
So crisis, almost by their definition, are chaotic. And what I'm hearing is in the midst of something like that, it's up to the leader to provide whatever degree of stability and order that they possibly can to just help those people who may be spinning in every direction at once. Okay, we may not have all the answers to everything that's going on, but here's what we can answer for you. And that alone, I think, helps bring some, maybe comfort's the wrong word, but at least settles things a bit, I would hope.
And this can happen. It's beyond a mass murder. It could be that train wreck in Ohio. It could be an earthquake. That I've been thinking a lot about this. How do we reach our individuals in a given state, region, or country? It could be an earthquake. It could be a plane crash. There are just so many things that one lives in our gilded bubble, and we just don't think it'll ever happen to us in our own backyard. And it does.
And then it does. Yeah, it does. Wow. One of the other things I'd ask you, and it's kind of in keeping with some of what we discussed today, is that, these things don't end with the event themselves. For survivors, for people who've lived through this, it goes on and on. And you even mentioned the need to talk and to share as part of the process. Are there things that Geiger's continuing to do either for employees or for the community that you could speak to?
Well, one of the things I can speak to is promotional products. I never really thought about our role of promotional products in times of crisis.
Mhm.
And I have this wonderful pin, Lewiston Strong. I don't know if you can see it or not. There it
Yes.
is.
Yep.
Joe Durand of Larlou did these for us. But I was stunned at how quickly pop-up signs, pins, t-shirts, bags, people wanted to show through promotional products their support for each other in their community. And we proudly wear these promotional products. We thank our suppliers for providing them to our community. We didn't use this as an opportunity to sell promotional products. In fact,
Yeah.
we have a lot of local screen printing companies and other companies locally who encourage them to do so, because this is also about the community at large. But we have, we are also wearing our promo and our signage proudly about how strong Lewiston is. Pete Geiger made the decision early on to have his Halloween extravaganza, which is a whole different thing, but over 3,000 children and parents and family came here to our facility to pick up extra large jumbo candy bars with the Lewiston Strong password. And they had to drive right past Smingy's. They had to drive right past the memorial to get here.
Yeah.
To provide normalcy to our children. And that's what we have to do. We have to make sure that tradition and normalcy continues, and we protect our kids, especially since they know that their friends were there. They were bowling, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Their friends were there.
My gosh, so it was so important then to go forward with that Halloween event at Geiger, to, as you say, to give that some sense of normalcy to these kids, and to have like it's okay, it's going to be okay now.
It's
That was
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
How many did you say how many kids
We had a
do you know?
record. Pete's been doing his Halloween extravaganza for almost 30 years. And that record was just shy of 3,000, I think 2,890 something. So just shy of 3,000 people
Wow,
came pick up candy bars. It's so cool.
And
But
you
it was
mentioned extra
also,
large. Did you guys go real big
if you
with
knew the secret password, and this
Okay.
year it was Lewiston Strong, then you
Okay.
could get 3 king size bars.
Oh wow.
And
Okay.
the television stations and the radio stations and the schools, everybody communicated it. And it was the first public gathering within 5 days that friends and family and all these kids all could assemble here on our property and receive a candy bar, 3 candy bars, and get sugar into their system. It was
I think
awesome.
what an
Mm,
incredible thing to do. And
mm,
when we see these things come up, these terrible tragedies, it is, I think, important to cling to a sense of normalcy and tradition, or things that we may have done anyway that just kind of speak to the normal happy flow of life. It's important
yeah,
to
yeah,
reinsert
yeah,
ourselves in
yeah,
them.
yeah. You also asked a question. I know we're going long, and I apologize for that,
No,
Chris.
not at all.
One of how music can remind you of something wonderful in your past,
Absolutely.
or maybe not so wonderful, depends if you had a
Sure.
tragic breakup or something.
Sure.
But sound is really important. And because it took 48 hours for the police and security to find this coward's body, there were helicopters always circulating above. And if someone wants to Google the fight tracks in Lewiston, Lisbon Falls, you'll see what happened is it went over the homes of everybody here.
Okay.
And so it was 24/7 nonstop sounds of helicopters for 2 days.
My gosh.
And so in the future, helicopters, the sound of helicopter will be a trigger.
Mhm.
In the future, no one is going to go into any public facility without looking at the escapes, the
Mhm.
exits.
Mhm.
In the future, and this is generational because I spoke with one of our colleagues who had a family member at Columbine,
Mhm.
and that's a generation ago. And to this day, the future generation who was born 20 years after
Mhm.
still is very aware of the impact this has, and it
Mhm.
has it impacts them just like a song will impact you of either that first love or that tragic breakup you may have had.
My word.
Mm,
My word. It's
mm, mm.
I guess one other thing I'd ask you on this, and you kind of spoke to it already to a degree, and it's just is there ongoing support being provided? It sounds like there is. Yeah.
Oh, there's
Yeah.
so much. There
Yeah.
is ongoing support for, well, Geiger's providing ongoing
Mhm.
support, absolutely, to our Geiger community,
Mhm.
whether you're here in Lewiston or outside. You don't have to, you can live in Colorado and have
Mhm.
family members here in Lewiston, I mean,
For
or
sure.
in Texas,
Mhm.
and have family members here. So we're providing support to our Geiger community. And the community at large has a number of nonprofits who are providing support. And we personally are working with uh, uh, a number of members in our community, and we'll be making some continued support announcements in the future of some continued support for the community. So yes, there is, not only do we lean on each other, but there are resources that will um, help people, but it'll never, ever, ever erase
Mhm.
the scars that have been created,
Mhm.
both physically and emotionally as a result.
Okay. Final thoughts. You've said it. You've said a ton. I just wonder if there's, the floor is yours, as they say. Is there anything you would just like to leave people with who are listening to this?
Well, my final thought is take every moment and every opportunity to tell someone how much you care about them. I did a video about that 2 or 3 months ago,
Mhm.
and it never held so true as it does today. So, Chris, I care about you. I've
Thank
always worked with you, and we've always had a wonderful friendship. But I don't know if I've ever told you how much I care about you and I care about your colleagues. And to the individuals that are listening to this, that I know who you are, I care about you as well. And that's the important thing because we never know what
Mhm.
tomorrow will bring and whether we have an opportunity to tell somebody how much we love them or how much we care about them. And that's the most important thing, especially in roles of leadership.
Joanne Lantz, Geiger from Lewiston, Maine. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Let me just stop this here.